Yo, it's your boy JTG, aka Jay the God, one half of the illest tag team ever, Crime Time, and you are watching Pro Wrestling Planet. And we all know Pro Wrestling Planet is about that money. Yeah, that money. Yeah. Cheer.
What can you say about WrestleMania 1 that hasn't already been said? This is a show that historically fans point to as the turning point of wrestling. Whether that's theoretically or historically accurate is a whole nother debate. What I do know is what most fans should know is that WrestleMania 1 was the start of a franchise that is now going into its 38th incarnation next year. The name WrestleMania, you could argue, is bigger than the WWE name itself. This show would grow, without a doubt, the absolutely largest and most money-making event year after year, with a few exceptions along the way, of course. So let's take a moment to take everyone back and relish in the story that is WrestleMania 1. WrestleMania 1 was held at Madison Square Garden, located in the heart of New York City in Times Square. Perhaps no other place could have birthed the legend that is WrestleMania. After all, it is the quote-unquote world's most famous arena. And being in the largest city in the country also doesn't hurt either. Vince McMahon hedged all of his bets and was essentially all in, wink wink, on the wrestling business at this point. This was a step in the direction of his national takeover, which started happening years prior. Before pay-per-view became a thing, there was another thing called closed circuit, which was basically a predecessor to what would become pay-per-view, and it was actually Jim Crockett Promotions that first braved this concept with Starrcade 1983. By the time of March 1985 came around and WrestleMania, McMahon, you could say, improved upon it and gave his own New York spin by making the show as over the top as possible. A pivotal role in all of this was McMahon's relationship with MTV, which was a sprouting cable network at the time with droves of young viewers, and Vince McMahon would also get Mr. T involved in the show and was a pretty major TV star at the time. McMahon would also add in another celebrity appearances to help sell WrestleMania, including Billy Martin of the New York Yankees, Muhammad Ali, Liberace, and of course Cyndi Lauper, who had the MTV audience tie-in. McMahon would pair all this up to his main event to make it a must-see. Hulk Hogan was riding hot as the champion who had just dethroned the Iron Sheik months prior and was knee-deep in the wave that would become Hulkamania. And Hulk was partnered with Mr. T to take on the top heel in the company at the time, Rowdy Roddy Piper, and his crew of Paul Orndorff and Bob Orton. The semi-main event saw Wendy Richter take on Leilani Kai, and this was the match that included Cyndi Lauper's involvement in the show. And to be given a semi-main event billing on perhaps the most important WWE show in history to that time is very interesting. If nothing else, considering how long it took for WWE to, take their women's division seriously, quote unquote, albeit probably another 30 years or something like that, you could say. The match I remember most about watching on this VHS growing up was the $15,000 Body Slam Challenge between Andre the Giant and Big John Studd. This encounter, I guess you could call it memorable because it was built up so well for such a simple segment. The memory of Andre throwing out the money to the furious New York crowd is also a vision that has been etched into my mind over the years watching WWE television, as it's one of the WrestleMania highlights that are fondly looked back on. Next down, we had the tag team title match between the US Express, which was a very young pair of wrestlers, Mike Rotunda and Barry Windham. Windham would go on to the NWA Championships and the Four Horsemen, And Rotunda, well, he would go on to be a ship captain and a guy who catches people cheating on taxes. They were defeated by the very non-American team of Nikolai Volkov and Iron Sheik. Nationalism was at an all-time high at this point in the 80s, and even though it wasn't at the epicenter of the show, still played a major role in wrestling for years to come. Junkyard Dog and Greg Valentine wrestled for the Intercontinental Championship, which ended in a countout, and Valentine keeping the title. The second longest match on the card was a match between Brutus Beefcake and David Sammartino. The son of legend Bruno Sammartino, of course, ultimately ended up falling flat and never appearing at WrestleMania ever again. Brutus was over enough and ended up good buddies with Hulk Hogan, so he would be gainfully employed for years to come. Also, Ricky Steamboat pinned Matt Bourne, who would return to WrestleMania 8 years later as a clown, and King Kong Bundy absolutely squashed Special Delivery Jones in what was touted for years as the shortest WrestleMania match ever. The show opened with Tito Santana defeating the Executioner, who Portland wrestling fans know better as Buddy Rose under a red hood. The first WrestleMania is said to have had over 1 million views across the country as part of closed circuit and apparently very limited pay-per-view. The show was a sellout of about 15,000 fans, and all around was considered a success by fans and the company. It would spark a tradition that would still last to this very day. I myself feel very close to it, as I was born in February of '85, and this show took place when I was almost 2 months old on March 31st, 1985. So in a way, I feel WrestleMania and myself have kind of grown up together, as weird as that may sound. I want to know what you people think. Were you alive for the first WrestleMania, and what are your memories of it, if you have ever seen it? Please let me know in the comments. Please make sure you subscribe to the channel so I can talk it out to you, and we'll see you next time on Pro Wrestling Planet.